So, welcome aboard this morning if you're joining me for the first time. This is our last few days of the live webinar, so be sure to catch up on the other ones. I'll be running tapping in part 4 tomorrow and 5 and 6 next week, and then we are done. So if you missed out on part 1 and part 2, they are recorded, so you can go back and watch them if you wanted to catch up. So first of all, I'm going to do an acknowledgement of country. 30-foot drop acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and the community. We pay our respects to the Indigenous people, their cultures and beliefs, to both the elders past and present. 30-foot drop funding. 30-foot drop would like to acknowledge the Department of Communities Disability Services for funding this and many other initiatives. Without their help, so many projects such as this Two Wise Monkeys project wouldn't see the light of day, and we'd be much more poorer for it as a community. So we thank them very much for our funding. This workshop is part of a Realities and Advantages of an Access and Inclusion grant awarded to 30-foot drop as part of an Information, Linkages and Capacity Building grant for 2018 and 2019. So first up, I'm just going to go over some housekeeping on how we run the webinars. So we don't have all of the resources to monitor all of the live platforms. So what that means is if you're wanting to send me a direct message through Facebook or the YouTube channels, you won't be able to send a direct message through those channels. But if you jump onto the link below, which is www.30footdrop.com.au, you can hit the live box on our website and send me a direct message. Anytime throughout the webinar, feel free to send any questions and none are off limits. So what else? We'll be covering a lot of information in a short period of time, so we ask attendees to try and minimize any distractions. I know that can be hard at times, but we can only do our best. Grab a pen and paper, an iPad, something to write down the notes, and I hope you enjoy it. Every session is recorded, so if you do need to stop or look back at something again, it's recorded and you can rewind it once we are done. And as well, if you know anyone that might be interested in these webinars, please tag and share our information. Let us know that you've tagged us, because the more people that know about what we're doing, the more people are going to be educated, and we're going to make changes together within the community. At the end of the webinar, we do have a short survey that we would be really grateful to you guys if you could fill that out. So once we've finished, that's just a matter of clicking on the link below and heading into tapping in part 3's survey. There's only a few questions on there, which we'd be grateful to you guys to fill out. So now let me introduce myself. I'm Lisa, and I am one of the Two Wise Monkeys. Sorry about that. I am Hear No Evil, and the other monkey is See No Evil. He is Ben, my boss, and he is the creator of these webinars and the website and platforms 30-foot drop. He has lived both disabled and enabled person. So he had an accident when he was 22 or 23, which the accident unfortunately put him in a wheelchair. So he's lived both sides, and through him he thought, no one really knows enough. He used to get angry at people and why can't they be more accepting or inclusive, and it was really hard. But then he thought one day, well, actually I think it's because no one's educated. People don't know enough about how to treat people with disability and impairment. So that is why we are now running these workshops, to educate people and businesses to be more open-minded, be more inclusive, and make sure that their business is accessible for people with disability and impairment. But my impairment is more of a hidden one. 30-something years ago, I was born 10 weeks premature, which can come with complications. So when I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed with mild dyslexia. I had one teacher that used to hit me on the head in front of my classmates and yell at me and say, "What's wrong with you?" making me feel completely dumb and unworthy. I had another teacher read out my low marks in front of the class so that I have no idea why. She read everyone's marks out, but mine weren't that great, and I was just like, that's, you're mortified. And why she did that, I don't know. Anyway, that made me feel completely dumb. But despite those challenges, I was determined to prove these people wrong and succeed in life. I wanted to be who I wanted to be, and I wasn't going to let those teachers, which were bullies, put me off. And I hope that if you're listening today and you do have an impairment of some kind, that you don't let people bring you down. That's their opinion, that's bullying, and they don't know the full story. Even though these teachers probably did know I had dyslexia, I don't know. Anyway, I found out at the age of 13 that, hey, I can actually draw and paint and do photography, and I ended up doing well at school with being creative. So I went on to get an arts diploma when I left school, a fine art diploma where I can look after and preserve fine artwork from hundreds of years ago, worked in galleries and museums around the world, picture framing manager, gallery manager, organising exhibitions, anything to do with the exhibitions I've done and artwork I've done. So I did that for 12 years and it was really awesome. But the other thing I've also done is counselling, because I like to help people. I like to show empathy and sympathy. I feel like I'm always there for people and I want to help people and make changes. Hence why I'm with Ben today doing the Two Wise Monkeys, to share my story about my impairment, but also to help educate and help change things to make a better place. So that's us. But when you look at the monkeys, isn't there normally 3 wise monkeys? We've got see no evil, hear no evil. Where is speak no evil? I have got a speak no evil behind me, hanging up there. Not sure if you can see the t-shirt, but anyway, this is what speak no evil looks like. And who is speak no evil? You guys can have a think about who speak no evil is while I turn the page, because my iPad has decided to not turn on, so I'm using Ben's notes. So speak no evil is you guys. So the aim of today's workshop is to turn you into that wise monkey. You'll begin on a journey of realizing, impairment or not, we are all human and deserve to be treated and acknowledged in the same way as everyone else. Such an important message. We all deserve that chance to be treated freely, equally and freely. So, how are we going to get you started on the path of a wise monkey? Well, there's a lot to learn about people with impairment and their potential impact on your business. Today we're going to examine the size of the market segment of people with impairment and what they represent, explaining who they are and their potential customer base. Then we'll examine the potential impacts they can have on your business, both the positive and negative. After covering all this good stuff, we will then finish off with an open forum where you can ask any questions at the end, or please feel free to ask any along the way. So how are we going to cover this? What will our teaching method be? The answer is fun, open, honest discussion. If we can't be open and honest about how we feel, the changes that need to be made, then they're not going to be made. We can't keep it inside. We've got to tell people, like, your business really wasn't accessible for me. Do you want to maybe think about adding a ramp here so that I can get in easier? Or let people know, give people feedback, and let's get the ball rolling to make changes for people with impairment and disability. You'll notice as well so far that there's very little written content on the slides, and we've purposely done that so that it's easy to interact. We also don't believe in death by PowerPoint, so it's nice and easy to follow. The writing and the colours are easy, it's not complicated. So that if there is someone watching with an impairment or disability, they can also follow along as well. And if you do have a hearing impairment, Facebook, the platform Facebook, now has subtitles. So if you want to get subtitles, jump onto the 30-foot drop Facebook page and turn the sound down, and you will have subtitles, so you can hear, you can read through that. So that is the outliner method. Next, I'm going to talk about a few words that quite often people get mixed up, thinking it's the same, meaning the same thing, which in fact it's not. So we're going to reduce some confusion by going over what these words actually mean. So, an impairment is an injury, illness, or congenital condition that causes or is likely to cause a loss or difference of psychological or physiological function. In short, your impairment is your medical diagnosis. So, my medical diagnosis is that I have mild dyslexia. A disability, on the other hand, is the loss or limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level with others. And it is, as the word implies, something that makes you unable to access or participate in something. Disabled, unabled. So you're unable because you're disabled. So an example of that for someone like me who has a learning disability, too much complex information, stylized script, things like that can make it hard for people with a learning disability to understand, which means that they're not actually getting the right information that they need through your website or your marketing to be able to use your website or marketing or business. So we're not understanding clearly what you're trying to say if your information is too complicated or complex. The script sometimes can be stylized and some people can't read it and stuff like that. So you need to make sure that it's nice and clear. So if people can't understand what your message is or what your business is about, people with impairments, then they're not going to be taking it any further most probably, and you'll be losing business. So this is important to know, because some people's impairments are hidden and you might have no idea that actually some people are walking away from your business because it's too complicated, or the script or the brightness or something isn't really working on your website to someone with an impairment or disability. So look at making it easy to follow and the information easy to understand. So that is disability and impairment. Next, I'm going to talk about the difference between access and inclusion. Access refers to the removal or reduction of barriers, physical and external, to participate in activities and functions of a community. At its core, access focuses a lot on the physical world around us and can be easily assessed with a checklist. So if you've got a cafe or a restaurant or something like that, you need to make sure that your door frames are wide enough for someone using a mobility scooter or in a wheelchair, and that there's a ramp to get up into your business. You haven't just got stairs. Also, are your door handles at a level where everyone can reach? Someone with short stature, someone in a wheelchair? Is it easy to open? Because imagine a really, really heavy door, someone in a wheelchair or with a disability where they haven't got the movement might not even be able to get in the door. So there's all these little things that you need to think about within your business that may affect someone with a disability or an impairment. So if you did want to go over a checklist, on our website under resources, we do have a checklist, an accessibility checklist, where you can check whether your business is accessible or not. So that is under the website, under resources, which I forgot to mention before. If you want to look at any more information that I speak about or look further into it, we do have other resources available on our website. So that is access. Now I will talk about inclusion. Inclusion is more of a psychological state of being and is a process whereby every person, irrespective of their age, disability, gender, religion, sexual preference, or nationality, who wishes to, can fully participate in all activities and services in the same way as every other member. Inclusion is making sure that no matter where someone comes from, their sexual preference, their religion, they all deserve to be included within your business or service. We're all human, we're all equal, we all deserve to be treated equally. And what I mean by this is, with a person with a disability or impairment, say you're in a wheelchair, I know this has happened to Ben, where he's gone out for dinner and he can't actually get in the front door of the restaurant, and he's a paying customer, and he's been told, oh right, you have to come through the kitchen. That's not being inclusive. So we want everyone to think about that. We want everyone to feel included. You definitely do not feel included if you're getting told that you have to come through the kitchen because you can't get in the front door to come and eat in that restaurant. So something to think about anyway. So now let's get into the nitty gritty of today. People with impairment and the untapped market share. Okay, here's a business idea. Ignore the potential market. That's what many sports athletic related businesses did until they realized that in the mid 1990s that they had been passing on a gold one. Women. Yes, you know, the population that most people thought should be playing with Barbie dolls and prams. Well, in the 1990s, there was a turning point. The NBC's 1996 Summer Olympic Games coverage targeted women much more than previously, and many more female-orientated sports leagues, such as soccer and basketball, apparel and equipment lines, and sports-related advertising emerged. Imagine that women would actually be interested in doing the same thing as the opposite sex. Could many businesses once again be missing out on other potential markets? Consider, for example, a population that has clear persistent needs that are not being adequately fulfilled. This population spans the world and is growing and includes very motivated customers. Since this population is currently being underserved and misunderstood by many businesses, many of the customers would be very grateful and loyal. This population that has an estimated disposable income Australia-wide of 54 million and growing. Also consider margins that are always tight, and finding a new and neglected population can help boost your business. Let's now have a look at this. People with impairment, how big a market share do you think people with impairment represent? Now let's have a look at some numbers. Here is the Australian population, 100% of Australia's population. There are approximately 5% of the Australian population living with a profound impairment or disability. These are people who require assistance or have difficulty with mobility, communication, or self-care. Add to this 5% another 4% who are the primary unpaid caregivers who look after the people with disability or impairment. You now have 9%. That's a fair share, and it doesn't even include the families and friends who accompany this 9% on holidays and such things. You may ask, if it is such a big market share, then surely they are already being served. Aren't there items and services and events such as the Paralympic Games every 4 years for those with disabilities? That may be a bit like saying to women, in the 1970s, yeah, but don't you have hopscotch? While some businesses do seem to understand, many businesses do not. Pretty sad. So Deloitte and the Human Rights Commission released a report in February 2017 titled The Missing Out Report, which is available under our resources, and please, I ask you to try and read that because it'll blow your mind. It's crazy how many people are missing out. This report released in February 2017 called The Missing Out Report, the business case for customer diversity, and in it they present their research findings about the missed opportunities that occur when businesses do not extend their values of fairness, equality and respect to diverse customer bases. This research covered the diversity of gender equality, marriage equality, people with impairment, age, cultural diversity, and people practicing a noticeable faith. It is definitely well worth reading and is available, like I said, on our digital library. Let's now look at some figures, and we have 4 graphs here that we will go over, and I'm sure you'll be shocked at some of the findings. Okay, graph 1. So more people with impairment are saying that often places do not provide the products and services that they need. So that is 35% of people feeling like they are not getting the products and services that they need. That's people with an impairment saying that. And the other 27 is people without an impairment, but they're also saying they're still not getting the products and services they need. So when you put that together, that's really, really high. Graph 2. Over a quarter of people with an impairment usually have a fear of rejection or embarrassment when interacting with businesses. That is a lot of scared customers, and ask yourself, do scared customers spend well? No, we don't want to spend money if we're embarrassed or feel rejected in a business or service. So that's 26% of people with an impairment saying that they don't want to engage with an organisation of the fear of rejection or embarrassment. Terrible. Graph 3. As a customer over the last 12 months, I was often treated less favourably than other customers based on a particular characteristic. So that's 1 in 3 people feeling like they are being treated less favourably because of a characteristic that they may have. 38% of people feeling like that. Terrible. Very, very sad. And I hope you're shocked at some of these numbers. Okay, graph 4. As a customer over the last 12 months, I have experienced discrimination by one or more organisation. This one shocked us the most. By one or more organisation. That's terrible. These stats show that there is definitely a market that are not having their needs met. Now let's have a look at who this market share is and who are the people behind the stats. People with impairment are just like all of us. We have passions, loves and families. We purchase consumer goods, we go to the movies, we buy clothing, we buy cars, we go out for dinner and we go on holidays. In short, people with impairment are active contributors to the community and the economy. As a result, they represent a market share to businesses and organisations. And because we are a market share, we also are able to impact your organisation, and how we do that is up to you. Let's now have a look at the potential impacts. Only minority and ethical consumerism. When it comes to minorities, people can often say it's only a minority. There isn't enough of them to make a difference. As discussed earlier, we can safely say about 9% of the population. And what research has found is that people with an impairment are a very decisive and influential minority. Let's have a look closer at these results. Some more graphs here to look at. Number 1. The purchasing power is in the hands of the customers. And when people don't get what they want in terms of product or service, they cease the transaction. In the missing out report, they examine this closely and add other factors such as fairness and respect. This result in this report shows that 1 in 5 customers without an impairment will cease a transaction, and 1 in 3, it jumps to 1 in 3 with people with an impairment because they were not treated with fairness and respect, showing that a negative experience is more likely to happen to someone with an impairment or disability. So they're ceasing their transaction. They're not going ahead with the payment because of the way they were treated. And if you're watching and you're a business owner, that's not very good for your business. You're losing money if your staff or anyone like that is treating customers like that. So, as well, people with impairment and disability will dissuade others from using your business if they're treated unfairly. More than just walking away from a sale, people with impairment are twice as likely than the rest of the population to dissuade others from using your product or service. So, got to be very, very careful about that. Twice as likely. And the negative effects. We've been asked in the past if supporting diversity, hang on, I've missed something here. In the last 12 months, I think I've just read the wrong part. Sorry, I'm not used to Ben's notes. Yes, so the ceasing transactions, where's that? This one's ceasing transactions, and then the next one is dissuading others. So the ceasing transactions, people with impairment are 29% of them are going to cease the transaction and not go ahead with the sale. And then it jumps to this one where it's 26%, and people with impairment or disability are going to dissuade friends and family from using your business. So 26% of us with an impairment or disability are going to dissuade others from using your business. Not a good look. Now, let's look at the negative effects. We've been asked in the past if supporting diversity in a business can have the adverse effect. Can it drive the current customers away? The Missing Out report found that 13% or 12% of people were negatively affected by the business diversity reputation, but 58% were positively affected. This result was not impairment specific and included other minorities that can be quite diverse. So, that 58% is worth that change. Only 12% are affected, and then the other 30% aren't worried either way. But, just changing how you approach things and within your business is definitely worth it. You're drawing more people into your business by being fair and equal. Okay, now key findings to all these graphs. To finish off this section, we want to read out the 3 relevant key findings. Customers with an impairment are 3 times more likely to avoid an organisation and twice as likely to dissuade others from using your organisation if your organisation has a negative diversity reputation. So that's what we're trying to educate you on today, to try and move away from that negative diversity reputation. So there's a good chance that if your business isn't accessible or inclusive, then it's already being impacted. We've covered the possible negative effects though. Let's now have a look at the positive effects. Who here has heard of ethical consumerism? Okay, let me explain what it is. No, it's only that one today. Ethical consumerism is a form of political activism based on ideas that purchasers and markets consume not only goods but also implicitly embrace the process used to produce them, by choosing certain products over others, or even whether to choose them at all. Consumers can embrace or reject particular environmental and labour practices and make other valuable claims based on the ethical values that they hold. Exercising choice in this way creates incentives for producers to make production practices conform with consumer values. Successful campaigns waged by ethical consumer movements have popularised dolphin-free tuna, foods that are free from genetically modified GMOs, sweatshop-free clothing, fair trade coffee, cosmetic products free from animal testing, and conflict-free diamonds. So that movement is definitely getting stronger and stronger as we move towards the future, which is really, really good, but it needs to continue in many, many other ways, especially for people with disability and impairment. Okay, next is implying to impairment. So how can ethical consumerism be connected to people with impairment? Who here has heard of the quiet hour that has been piloted at Coles and Woolworths? For those that haven't, let me explain. Some impairments make people hyper aware of their surroundings, making activities such as going to the supermarket really, really overwhelming and hard. At Coles and Woolworths every Tuesday between 10:30 and 11:30, the store lighting is dimmed by 50%, the radio is switched off, register and scanner volumes are reduced to the lowest level, trolley collections are stopped, roll cages are removed from the shop floor, PA announcements are stopped except for in an emergency, free fruit is offered, and additional team members are on the shop floor to help customers. This is an amazing initiative and makes a great difference to many, many people. It also has increased the ethical reputation of both Coles and Woolworths. If you research on the internet, it has been published all over Australia. And how do you think it has affected the consumers, the Australian consumers? definitely a positive, and it's really nice for people with impairment and disability to know that they do have a time frame when only they are allowed in the supermarket, and they've got the space and it's not noisy, and they've got people there to help them. Um, and a bit like when COVID was in full action, they opened the supermarkets to the elderly and the disabled in the morning. So that was really nice for people to get in there and know that they've kind of got first choice in things, and they're going to be able to move around freely. And I think that this is something they should be doing every day for elderly and disabled. Even at that time, that's a good time. I did find that with the COVID one, the time was 7 in the morning, and I do think that's a bit early for the elderly and the disabled, because some people have carers and find it hard to get up that early in the morning. But anyway, thank goodness there is online shopping, but that's not always easy for someone that's elderly or has a disability either. So we do need to have both those options available, I think. Anyway, that is tapping in part 3. I hope you enjoyed it today. I will be doing it again tonight, so if you know anyone or you want to have a look at it again tonight, please jump over at 6 p.m. and have a look at tonight's one. Right now, I'm going to hit the open forum button where anyone can ask any questions on what we've spoken about today, or anything else that you want to talk about. But if you do have to go, have a great day, everyone, and I will see hopefully some of you later or tomorrow. But please, if you know anyone that will be interested or benefit from today's webinar, please let them know, and please send them over to me tonight. Thanks very much. I will see the people with questions very soon. Hey guys, there doesn't appear to be any questions this morning, but that is fine. I thank you very much for joining me on our last part 3 of the webinars, the live webinars. We do offer awareness training where we do all of these webinars put together in businesses and services where we can teach the team on how to be more inclusive and educate the team on how to be more inclusive and fair when they are dealing with someone with disability and impairment, and definitely makes a big difference to so many lives. So thank you very much for joining me this morning. I will see those of you that are interested tonight at 6 p.m. Thank you very much. Bye.